Welcome to the channel, dear friends and seekers of ancient lore. Today we embark on a journey that reaches beyond memory to the dawn of sentient life in Middle-earth. A moment both profound and sacred, whispered through the ages by the wise and the learned. This is the tale of the awakening of the elves at Cuiviénen, a moment not merely of sight and sound, but of song. For it was here that the firstborn of Iluvatar sang their first song beneath the stars of Vardar, a melody so pure, so untainted by shadow, that even the Valar in their far-off halls felt its echo. To understand the depth of this moment, we must first look to the very beginning of Ea, the world that is. Before the shaping of Ardar, the Ainur, beings of unimaginable power and beauty, sang the music of the Ainur, a divine symphony woven by Eru Iluvatar himself, a music that shaped the very fabric of reality. As stated in the Silmarillion, it was within this great music that the children of Iluvatar were first conceived, though their awakening in the flesh would come long after the music had stilled. It was in the year of the trees, long before the First Age, when the Valar still tended to the two trees of Valinor, that the elves first opened their eyes. In the distant east, by the rippling waters of Cuiviénen, under the shimmering canopy of Vardar's stars, they awoke. No sun had yet risen, nor had the moon begun its silver journey across the sky. Only the stars, crafted by Vardar Elentari herself, offered their radiant blessing. This moment, untouched by shadow, was destined to change the course of Ardar forever. The elves, the Quendi, were the first to speak and sing in Ardar, and it is said that their first song was one of sheer wonder and joy, an echo of the music of the Ainur itself. The mere act of seeing the stars stirred their spirits into song, a melody woven from pure awe, love of beauty, and the mystery of life itself. Imagine it, waking to a world pristine and vast, surrounded by the endless shimmering waters of Cuiviénen, beneath an eternal night sky blazing with the glory of untouched starlight. Yet even in this moment of purest wonder, fate had already begun to stir in darker currents. The Valar knew of the elves' destined awakening through the music, and they yearned to welcome the firstborn into the light of a man, but they were not the only ones watching. Melkor, the great corrupter, Morgoth, as he would later be known, coveted what was not his to claim. In secret, he moved through Middle-earth, seeking to ensnare the children of Iluvatar, even as they awoke to life. The first elves, those who later became the ancestors of all Eldar, spoke of shadows that moved in the night, whispers that chilled even their immortal spirits. Some would vanish without a trace, becoming perhaps the first of the Orcor, corrupted by Melkor's malice. But on that first untarnished night at Cuiviénen, before fear crept into their hearts, the elves knew only beauty, wonder, and song. A song that bound them to Ardar and to each other in a unity of spirit that even the shadow could not fully break. The song of the Quendi at Cuiviénen was not merely a melody. It was a living thread woven into the fabric of Ardar itself. Their voices, pure and unburdened by sorrow, rose in harmony with the gentle sighing of the wind across the darkened waters, and the rustling of leaves untouched by time. In this sacred moment, the elves did not yet know the weight of fear, nor the sorrow of loss, only the joy of being and the wonder of creation. Their song was a reflection of the very music of the Ainur, echoing Iluvatar's original theme, untouched by Melkor's discord. It was beauty made sound, a hymn to the stars above and the world newly discovered beneath their feet. As they gathered by the shores of Cuiviénen, the elves beheld their first companions, each other. The earliest among them, those whom legend remembers as Immin, Tata, and Inel, with their spouses Iminye, Tati, and Enelii, are said to be the forefathers of all elven kindreds. These three chieftains would awaken with their companions in groups of 12, 18, and 24 respectively, Forming the earliest divisions among the Firstborn, there was no concept of nation, no thought of division, only unity in discovery. They named themselves Quendi, meaning those who speak, for they were the first in Ada to form words, and through language they bound themselves to one another and to the world around them. It is said that Vada, known among the elves as Elbereth Gilthoniel, felt the stirring of the Firstborn in her heart before even the Valar perceived their awakening. In the undying lands of Aman, she had long labored to set the stars in the firmament, crafting constellations of silver flame as a gift for the children of Ilúvatar. The greatest of these was Menelmaka, a sign of the hunter in the sky, and Valasurka, the sickle of the Valar, a warning to Melkor of his eventual downfall. When the elves first opened their eyes beneath these radiant jewels of the heavens, it was said they fell to their knees in reverence, naming Vada as the fairest and most beloved of the Valar. But not all that stirred in those early nights was benign. Melkor, whose envy and malice had already twisted much of Arde's beauty, was aware of the Quendi's arrival. He feared their potential, for even in their innocence, the elves bore a fragment of Ilúvatar's creative flame, a gift the dark enemy could never claim for himself. Thus, in secret and shadow, he sent out his spies and servants, corrupting beasts and bending dark spirits to his will. The whispers of dread began to haunt the borders of Cuiviénen, where shadows slithered and strange cries echoed in the night. Some elves, wandering too far from the safety of their kin, vanished without trace. Thus began the first tragedies of the Firstborn. Yet, in those earliest days, the shadow could not wholly darken the joy of the elves' awakening. The water of Cuiviénen shimmered like liquid crystal beneath the stars, and the forests that crowned the surrounding hills were rich with life, untouched by malice. The elves, drawn by curiosity and wonder, named every tree, every stone, every creature they encountered. Their language grew swiftly, a reflection of their immortal spirits and the beauty of the world around them. It was a time of pure creation, of songs woven into the air like threads of light and joy, untouched by sorrow or fear. The Valar, dwelling far away in Aman, soon became aware of the awakening of the Quendi through the foresight of Orome, the great huntsman of the Valar. Orome, who often rode across the wide plains of Middle-earth in pursuit of the creatures of Melkor, was the first of the powers to behold the elves with his own eyes. Drawn by their song, clear and bright as the first dawn, he approached Cuiviénen, and the elves, though startled by his might and splendor, did not flee. His presence was vast, his form majestic, yet there was no malice in his being. To them, Orome was both awe-inspiring and comforting, a being of light and strength amid the deepening shadows. It was Orome who gave them their first name in the tongue of the Valar, Eldar, meaning people of the stars. Yet this name would only be fully embraced by those who later chose to follow him westward to Aman. In that first meeting, Orome spoke with kindness and reverence, listening to the songs of the elves and sharing with them the knowledge of the wider world, a world they had not yet dared to imagine. His arrival was a beacon of hope, a sign that they were not alone in the vastness of Ada. And yet, his coming also heralded a turning point that would alter their fate forever. When Orome returned to Valinor to tell the other Valar of the Firstborn's awakening, the powers were moved with both joy and dread. Joy, for the children of Ilúvatar had at last stirred; dread, for they knew Melkor's malice still festered in the dark places of the world. The Valar gathered in council and resolved to summon the Quendi to Aman, offering them refuge in the blessed realm where Melkor's shadow could not reach. They sought to bring the elves into the light of the two trees, to protect them from corruption and to share in the beauty of Valinor. But the elves themselves, unknowing of this grand design, remained at Cuiviénen, their hearts torn by newfound fears, for by then the whispers of Melkor's malice had spread among them. Stories of those who vanished into the night, of strange shapes moving beneath the boughs, and voices calling from the shadows that did not belong to their kin. These early terrors seeded a growing dread that would shape their choices for ages to come. Some began to fear even Orome himself, mistaking him for a servant of the darkness that haunted their dreams. Thus the Valar's offer, when it came, was met not with unanimous joy, but with hesitation and doubt. Orome returned to Cuiviénen once more, this time to extend the invitation of the Valar to the Elves. He spoke of Valinor, of lands where the trees bathed the world in gold and silver light, where no shadow could linger. Yet fear of the unknown divided the Quendi. Some, moved by Orome's words and the promise of safety, were eager to depart. These became known as the Eldar, those who would undertake the great journey westward. But others, wary of abandoning the land of their awakening, chose to remain by the waters of Cuiviénen. These would become the Avari, the unwilling, whose paths would remain forever tied to Middle-earth. Thus began the first great sundering of the Elves, a division that would echo through the ages. Those who set out on the journey west faced trials and wonders beyond imagining, crossing rivers, mountains, and vast plains under the guidance of Orome. Yet even among the Eldar, further divisions arose, as some fell behind or turned aside from the journey. The seeds of future realms, of kingdoms and rivalries, were sown in that ancient migration. But those who stayed behind, the Avari, remained close to Cuiviénen, forever touched by the ancient starlight under which they had first awoken, bearing the memory of that first song, a melody of pure, untamed wonder, untouched by the griefs that would soon follow. The great journey of the Eldar was a crossing of immense hardship and wonder, a pilgrimage driven by the promise of light and the blessing of the Valar. Orome led them westward, his mighty steed Naha shining with a silver radiance under the starlit sky. Yet, for the Elves, each step away from Cuiviénen was a step into the unknown. The memory of their first awakening, the song of the waters beneath the stars, weighed heavily upon them. Some began to falter, their hearts yearning for the lands of their birth, unwilling to abandon the shores where they first beheld the stars of Varda. These were the Lindar, later known as the Teleri, whose love of water and starlight would forever shape their destiny. The journey was not without its trials, for Melkor's influence still lingered in the wild lands of Middle-earth. The travelers encountered dark places where the stars seemed to fade, and whispers of fear crept into their hearts. Yet Orome's presence was a beacon of hope, his voice like thunder, his might a shield against shadow. Still, not all who began the journey completed it. Some of the Teleri, overcome by weariness and doubt, chose to remain behind in the forests of Eriador and along the shores of Anduin. These became the Nandor, who would later dwell in the green vales of Lothlorien and the wild woods of Osirian. For those who pressed onward, the passage through Middle-earth was long and arduous. Mountains loomed vast and impassable, rivers surged with wild strength, and the winds of the north whispered ancient fears. Yet the Vanyar and the Noldor, the two greatest hosts of the Eldar, pressed forward with unwavering resolve. The Vanyar, golden-haired and ever drawn to the light, were the first to reach the western shores, followed closely by the proud and gifted Noldor, who hungered for knowledge and mastery of craft. Each step westward was a journey not just of distance, but of spirit, an echo of their awakening, a deep yearning for the beauty and knowledge promised by the Valar. When the first of the Eldar reached the shores of the great sea, Belegir, they beheld a sight beyond mortal imagining. Ulmo, Lord of Waters, arose from the depths, his voice a song of ancient power and sorrow. At his command, the island of Tol Eressëa was brought forth, a haven for the Elves that would carry them across the sea. The Vanyar and the Noldor embarked swiftly, their eyes set on the radiant light of Aman across the horizon. But the Teleri lingered, their hearts bound still to the beauty of Middle-earth and the memory of Cuiviénen's starlit waters. Their delay would shape their fate, for when they finally reached the shores, the first ships had already sailed. Thus the sundering of the Elves deepened. The Vanyar and the Noldor found their place in the Blessed Realm, dwelling beneath the radiance of the two trees of Valinor. The Teleri, arriving too late to sail, remained in Middle-earth for many long years. Some among them, the Eglath, wandered the lands in sorrow and longing until they settled by the shores of Beleriand. where Elwi, their lord, would become Thingol, the Grey King of Doriath. Others would later join their kin in Aman, becoming the Falmari, the sea-loving singers of Alqualond. But those who never completed the journey, the Avari, remained scattered across Middle-earth, bound forever to the starlight of their first awakening, untouched by the glory of the two trees. In Aman, beneath the radiant glow of the two trees, Telperion and Laurelin, the Vanyar and the Noldor found their place among the Valar. The Vanyar, closest in heart to the Valar, became known for their purity, their devotion to light, and their love of song and poetry. They dwelt in bliss upon the slopes of Taniquit Hill, near the halls of Manwë and Vardar. The Noldor, on the other hand, were drawn to craft and lore, their minds sharp and restless, ever eager for knowledge. Under the guidance of Aule, they became master smiths and artisans, shaping gems and treasures of unmatched beauty. Yet even in this land of peace, a shadow stirred in secret. For among the Noldor was Feanor, whose fiery spirit would one day ignite a tragic rebellion that would shape the doom of his people. Meanwhile, the Teleri, after long years of wandering the shores of Beleriand, were at last summoned to Valinor. Yet not all would answer the call. Elwi, known later as Thingol, had vanished into the enchanted woods of Nan Elmoth, where he encountered Melian the Mayor. There, time itself seemed to halt as he fell into a deep enchantment, bound by love to the Mayor's luminous presence. When his people sought him and found him lost, many of the Teleri refused to continue their journey without their lord. These became the Sindar, the Grey Elves, who remained in Middle-earth to build the realm of Doriath under Thingol's rule, crafting a kingdom of beauty and enchantment beneath Melian's protective girdle. The Avari, those who had never set foot upon the great journey, remained scattered across Middle-earth. Though their names were lost to the ages, their influence lingered in the forests and wild places of the world. They were the Dark Elves. Not because of any malice or corruption, but because they had never beheld the light of the two trees. Yet, in their hearts, remained the memory of Cuiviénen, pure and undimmed by the great tragedies to come. Some say that the oldest songs of the Avari still echo in the forgotten woods of the east, remnants of that first, unbroken melody, sung beneath the stars of Vardar. Back in Aman, the peace of the Eldar was not to last. Melkor, who had been bound and humbled before the Valar, was eventually released from his captivity, feigning repentance. Yet, deep within his black heart, the fire of envy and malice still burned. He saw the glory of the Noldor and coveted their growing power and skill. Slowly, with whispered lies and subtle manipulations, he sowed seeds of mistrust among them, especially in the heart of Feanor, whose unmatched genius had crafted the Silmarils, jewels that captured the light of the two trees themselves. Melkor's whispers would soon ignite a flame that would cast all of Arda into shadow. But before this fall, before the great griefs of the First Age, there remained in memory the purest joy of the elves awakening at Cuiviénen. The starlight of Vardar still shimmered in their eyes, and the first song of the Firstborn remained unbroken in the hearts of those who remembered. Even as tragedy loomed, that moment when the children of Ilúvatar first sang beneath the eternal night remained a symbol of untainted beauty, a reminder of what was lost and what the elves would forever long for in every song, every lament, and every star-filled gaze toward the distant sky.